I don't want to say I don't want to say he really wants to be the guy who steps in if the current nominee goes down, but he gets an alert on his phone every time Biden can't think of a word. The downside is that governor of California is kind of like being conservator for Britney Spears. They'll attack him on California's homeless problem, but there's a response to that. The homeless can live anywhere, but they choose California.
It started like any other panel exchange, but within minutes you could feel the tension. Bill Maher, in that signature calm and measured style, went straight at California Governor Gavin Newsom. And it wasn't with insults or cheap shots. It was with facts, logic, and a tone so steady that it cut sharper than any shouting match ever could. Maher zeroed in on the heart of California's problems: homelessness, crime, cost of living, and the exodus of families and businesses fleeing the state. And he didn't let Newsom hide behind polished talking points. While Newsom tried to frame California as a progressive success story, Maher pushed back with uncomfortable truths. The streets of Los Angeles and San Francisco tell a very different story. The calm delivery made it sting. Instead of yelling, Maher laid out the data: rising homelessness numbers, businesses relocating to Texas and Florida, skyrocketing housing costs, and residents voting with their feet as California's population shrinks for the first time in modern history. And here's the killer moment. Maher reminded Newsom that it's not Fox News exaggerating these problems. It's everyday Californians posting videos on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. The viral footage of tent cities, crime sprees, and boarded-up stores isn't coming from conservative media spin. It's coming from residents with smartphones. In the digital age, you can't cover up reality with a polished press release. Newsom tried to counter, pointing to California's economic size and its progressive values as proof that the state is thriving. But Maher calmly dismantled it. What good is GDP if working-class families can't afford rent? What good are progressive ideals if people are afraid to walk their own neighborhoods? What good is being the future of America if your own citizens are leaving in record numbers? The audience knew it, and you could see it on Newsom's face. For once, the slick governor didn't have the upper hand. This wasn't a hostile attack. It wasn't partisan mudslinging. It was a calm, devastating reality check delivered live, on air, with millions watching. And that's what makes this moment different. Because Bill Maher wasn't acting like a politician or a partisan or even an activist. He was acting like a truth teller. And in that moment, he gave voice to something so many Californians feel but rarely hear said out loud on national television.
Government, too much government there.
That's an interesting one, because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind.
What happened next wasn't loud, wasn't messy, and that's exactly why it landed like a bomb. Because after that first pushback, Bill Maher didn't let go. He leaned in with the kind of steady, fact-based critique that politicians hate most. The kind that can't be brushed aside as partisan spin. And in doing so, he took apart Gavin Newsom's narrative piece by piece, live on air. Maher reminded Newsom that California isn't just suffering from perception problems. The problems are real. The homeless encampments stretching through downtown LA, they're real. The boarded-up businesses in San Francisco, real. The stories of middle-class families packing up and leaving because they can't afford rent, gas, or groceries anymore. All real. And, Maher added, voters don't need CNN or Fox News to tell them about it. They see it on their commutes. They film it on their phones. They live it every single day. That's where the hit really landed. Maher calmly pointed out that in the digital era, there is no hiding. No amount of slick press conferences or polished campaign ads can erase the images that go viral online within minutes. Whether it's crime sprees caught on camera, viral clips of chaotic city streets, or even Tesla owners loading their cars onto U-Hauls headed for Texas. Californians themselves are documenting the decline. And once those clips are out there, no governor spin can put the genie back in the bottle. Newsom tried to reframe the conversation. He pivoted to California's economy, the fifth largest in the world, as proof that the state remains a global leader. He touted its progressive climate policies, its diversity, its innovation. But Maher, in that trademark blunt style, cut through it with one of the sharpest lines of the night. What's the point of being the fifth largest economy if people living in it can't afford a house? The studio fell silent. That line has already been clipped and shared across TikTok and X thousands of times because it hit a nerve. It exposed the gap between the glossy statistics politicians love to cite and the lived reality of the people they govern. And Maher didn't stop there. He zoomed out, highlighting a broader truth. California is losing the trust of its own people. Every time leaders dismiss concerns about crime, homelessness, or affordability as exaggerated, they deepen that divide. Every time they downplay what residents see with their own eyes, they fuel resentment. And every time they insist California is thriving while citizens are struggling, they erode their own credibility. That was the real body blow to Newsom. Not just the critique of California's failures, but the accusation that leaders like him are pretending those failures don't exist. Maher said it flat out. The press isn't supposed to be a fan club, and politicians aren't supposed to live in denial. That single line is now trending on political YouTube channels, reaction clips, and across Twitter, precisely because it captured what so many frustrated Californians have been saying for years. What made it devastating wasn't just the words, it was the delivery. Calm, steady, logical, no shouting, no theatrics, no cheap shots. Just a relentless insistence on reality. That's the kind of critique politicians fear most, because it can't be waved away as bias or bad faith. By the end of the exchange, Newsom looked rattled. He smiled, he deflected, he tried to laugh it off, but the clip was already out in the world. Viewers knew they had just seen something rare, a high-profile politician getting fact-checked in real time on a mainstream stage, and not by a rival, not by an opponent, but by a cultural figure with no campaign to run and nothing to lose. And that's why this clip is blowing up online. Because it wasn't loud, it wasn't hostile, it wasn't performative. It was devastating precisely because it was calm. Maher's takedown proved that sometimes the most brutal critique doesn't come from shouting. It comes from refusing to look away from the truth. And that's what California and America just witnessed live on television.